Hey everybody, my name is Christine Chai and welcome to Zested Foods, where this channel is all about strengthening the family one meal at a time. I have a wonderful family here today all the way from Cincinnati, Ohio. They have 7 children, they homeschool their kids, they both have successful YouTube channels, and they still have time to sit down and have some breakfast with me. I'd like to introduce to you Tim and Dana Schmoyer, and I've worked with Tim on a couple different courses to help me grow my YouTube channel, and he has been a life changer. And I've also watched a lot of Dana and their family vlog, and I can totally relate to their family vlog because I grew up in a family with 7 children, so I can relate to all of the chaos that happens with 7 children running around. I have 4 children and I know what it's like to feed a family, and some days it can be really crazy to get dinner on the table. So I want to ask you, what is it like to feed 7 children 3 times a day plus snacks in between?
My number one focus is always dinner. Like, I feel like our day can go however it's going to go as long as we have dinner on the table and we can sit down at the end of the day and eat as a family, we're good. So breakfast and lunches, I just make it really simple. Their dishes are on their level. I get foods that they can help themselves to. Every once in a while we'll do something more, or one of our older kids loves to cook, and so he'll do eggs, or actually the other one, both of our older kids like to cook. They'll do biscuits and eggs and pancakes or something, and they'll cook those for the kids, which is such a help. And then lunch, these 2 will pitch in, and they like to make sandwiches, and we'll do some pretty awesome sandwiches or pizza toast for everybody, and keep it simple, and just I get to focus on dinner.
My children are getting older and I've noticed them eating a lot more, and my grocery budget is going way up. So I'm curious to know, what is it like feeding kids? How often do you meal plan? How often do you have to go to the grocery store? And how expensive is it to feed a family of 9?
Oh man.
It's getting more expensive as they get older.
Well, and we've also made a shift in making sure that we're eating healthier as a family, and so that raised the grocery budget up quite a bit. But I also feel like, but we're not spending the money on the junk food and everything, so that saves that bit, not going to healthier, so that helps. Meal planning, I do about once a week. I like to do more than once, or not more than once a week, but I like to plan about every 2 weeks if I can, just because I hate meal planning.
Right?
It's not fun, but it's necessary. And so in order for me to not have to buy a lot of groceries that we're not going to end up eating.
Right.
So
do you find it saves you time and money when you do meal plan versus if you just go to the grocery store and
it's just carving out that time to sit down and just really focus on, like, okay, what are we going to actually be eating? What are we not going to repeat every single week? So we have some variety maybe. I definitely go once a week. I usually try to do like a giant either 2-week or 1-month grocery, depending on how well I can do at meal planning. But I definitely have to go back every week to get fresh produce.
Sure. And do you guys shop at like Costco or Sam's or anything, or do you just try and buy from the grocery store?
I do probably 95% of my shopping from Aldi. I love how small the store is, how simple the products are, get everything there that I can, and then there's just a couple items that I pick up here and there.
One of the things that I noticed with how we eat is before we were eating like really unhealthy, the bill was a lot cheaper, the attitudes were a lot higher, you know? And so it was a lot of restlessness, a lot of, sugar spikes, a lot of adrenaline down to like nothing. And so for a family, like we're spending more now for more healthy food, but the attitudes have like leveled out pretty significantly.
When my kids ask to help cook in the kitchen, sometimes it's not always convenient, but I try and make a conscious effort to let them help me in the kitchen. So how often with 7 kids do you guys involve your kids with the cooking process?
It depends on what kid and what age and what needs to be done in the kitchen. These 2 help a little bit. Hallie loves to help cook, and she'll come and she'll stir things or help measure things and just loves doing that. My older ones, they can do a whole meal by themselves, I found out. I was rushed one day and said, I need to go do this. I need you to cook dinner. And they did. It wasn't perfect. It was a little greasy.
They didn't drain the
they didn't drain the grease as good as I would have. But it was good and it was done and I didn't have to do it, which was awesome. But it starts with having to bring the little ones in and having to let them help. And I've even had our baby come in and help and just try to figure out like what can you do? Even just sit her on the counter next to a mixing bowl, give her a spoon.
Oh yeah, and they love it. To them it's fun, but little do they know they're being taught.
Yeah, and the little ones, I got some I bought kitchen utensils specifically for the kids to help, like little peelers that are extra chunky for them to hold and that they can work on.
Oh, that's a great idea.
So it's been fun because I know the end result that I want with my older ones being able to do it on their own, and we have to start with them being little. And Tim's been my biggest one of teaching me that I need to include the kids and teach them how to help.
Because sometimes it's hard when it's like, oh, I can just do it faster.
Yeah.
It's okay, it's time to eat. But it's like, if I keep telling them no, eventually they'll stop asking.
Yeah.
Right.
And you want them when they're like Hannah's age to be able to cook and to come in and want to help.
And so I had to let go of it being like, that's not the way I would do it, and having to step back. And that's where he came in handy, because there were times when I had to just even step out of the kitchen. And and
you just have to have the mindset that the goal here is not actually to make the food. The main thing for us was not like, can we get this food cooked right now, but it was more like, this is an opportunity to train our children. And like the goal isn't necessarily to get this thing cooked by a certain time right now. I know like most families, like including ours, are always like stressed, gotta have this on time, that time. It's like right now, that's just not gonna happen.
Right.
Get the food cooked eventually, but what we're really doing is investing to our kids so that in the future, that's when the payoff, the reward comes. And not just with cooking, but just with learning and discipline and being together as a family in general.
Because it's gonna taste amazing.
I was getting work done throughout this whole thing, so I didn't even know there was apple anything getting made. I just smelled something. I was on calls with people, and I'm like, what is going on in that kitchen? Because it smells delicious.
And then it smelled burnt.
And then it's like, what's burning out there?
2 of the pies are done.
There's these, and there's mine.
I mean, I don't care if they burn the whole thing. The process of learning, experiencing it, trying something new. I mean, you can't expect the first thing you ever cook to turn out amazing, right? And I think for their first thing, I thought it was already amazing.
What? That's a kiss pancake?
Thank you.
I think we're good. They're pretty good. It's been a while.
My favorite part about having the kids learn to cook with us is actually not as much what they learn and the relationship, all those things are great, but it's when they deliver to you what they've made and they've invested, like their eyes are just glowing and they're like, I made this, and like Hallie makes me a breakfast, you know, it's like she is so proud of what she's made, and I think that's like the confidence it gives kids, and it's a natural way for them to learn to serve other people. And when they're making this whole thing, they're like, what's Dad's reaction going to be? What's he going to think? And I think that's just really healthy for kids to think about what am I doing that's going to be for someone else? And cooking is a natural way, I think, to start training them in that.
I love that. I remember as a kid doing that for my parents, you know, surprising them with breakfast in bed, or, you know, just making breakfast and just being so proud that I made this for you. And it's that love language that you both can share. And that's a great point. I love that. Growing up in a large family, we didn't go out to eat very often. My mom was really good at having dinner on the table every night. So as a family of 7, how often do you guys eat out? Because I know I love to cook, but I find my family eating out probably more than we should. So I'm just curious with the family of 7.
If I have my way, we would eat out once a week, just because I like to have a break. Until my kids are cooking regularly, I like to, well, even if they do cook regularly, I don't want to have to do dishes, I don't want to have to do anything. So I like once a week. Sometimes it's maybe once or twice a month, but no more usually than 4 times a month.
We budget it, and it's like once the money's gone for that month, like we're not getting out anymore. And so we usually budget enough for us to do like 2 quick meals or 1 nice meal a month.
Sit down.
Yeah.
And is it hard taking 7 kids, or are they pretty good because you just train them to sit? I mean, they're doing great here, but
they actually do really well in public. So I feel like they know, like, we're out in public, we're around other people, we can't be how we are at home. And we're working at the at-home part as well. But they do pretty good, and it's fun for me to go out and take all these kids and see everybody's reactions whenever they see, like, these people are really going to be eating dinner right next to me. How is this going to go?
Is like, not it. You know?
And then because they just assume it's going to be horrible.
We even had one waitress tell us where to sit in the middle of the kids. That's only happened once. But I love at the end of dinner when we get all the compliments of how well the kids have done, and the kids have even gotten dessert paid for by somebody else in the restaurant.
No way, because they're just so impressed.
Yeah, it's happened more than once.
My channel's focus is all about strengthening the family one meal at a time, and I know that getting dinner on the table every single night sometimes isn't always possible, and every meal isn't always going to be perfect. So what advice do you guys have for someone who's struggling to eat together as a family or make dinner every single night? What advice do you have for them?
I think it's important, like, not to bite off more than you can chew. No pun intended. Kind of intended, actually. But it's like, if you right now aren't doing any meals together, like, what does it take just to do one a week, right? And just consider that a win. I know sometimes we can look at other people on YouTube or social media and like, oh, their family eats every meal together, and that's like, I don't know about that, you know? So it's just like, if you're at a 0, just how do you get to a 1? Or if you're at a 1, how do you get to a 2? And just take the next step and consider that a win, rather than trying to be like, we're gonna go to 7 meals a week, we're all gonna eat together, and all the kids are gonna make them all. Like, that's gonna be over in 2 days. You know?
Oh yeah.
And I like having your easy fallbacks. And if that's maybe even your 1 meal a week, like, that's totally fine. If it's breakfast for dinner or having spaghetti, that's always been one that we just make sure we always have, like, spaghetti and spaghetti sauce on hand in the pantry. And so if all else fails and what you were hoping you wanted to cook can't happen, you make something else real quick.
Right, I can totally relate. There's times that I'll purposely plan an easy meal just so that if it's that day of the week where I'm like, this day went not as planned, I can just fall back, but there's still dinner or still something, even though it may not be something gourmet or amazing. Pancakes. My kids will never turn down pancakes. So
even when you go out to eat, though, you can still use that as an opportunity to build relationships with your family. I mean, if you're like at a 0 and you're like not doing anything, just go out, have a nice dinner together as a family, and have something intentional in mind, like, here's a conversation, highs and lows of today or this week, or what's something that you're really trying to figure out right now, just like whatever, and use that as a time. Because even like right now, like, we're eating at a restaurant, building relationships, and so I think there's just something very relational about eating food together, whether it's at a restaurant or at home.
thank you to Sidecar Cafe for feeding us breakfast, and to Tim and Dana Schmoyer for joining us here today and teaching us what it's like to feed a large family. If you want to check out their channel, Schmovies, make sure you check that out right over here, and we will see you guys in the next video.